Hi, and welcome back to our tutorial series on After Effects. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the mask tool of After Effects, and this is probably the tool that you might end up using the most as you begin to develop your skill set with After Effects. This is the tool that allows you to create a montage of many different media elements on one screen, and allows you to kind of create a masterpiece of many different elements together into one video clip. For the purposes of this material, we can get rid of the text that we created in our last tutorial. And anytime you want to get rid of a layer, you can just point to it. And you'll see that it highlights as you point to it. And once it's highlighted, you can just hit the delete key and it will be gone. All right, it's a nice beach scene, but for this little demonstration on the masking tool, I think I want to pick another beach shot from Canada here rather than Oregon coast. Let's go to Canada for this tutorial. And once we drop it on, we see that again it's a 4K clip. We need to reduce the size since this is an HD project. And we want to see more of that video clip. This is a place called Hopewell Rocks in the Bay of Fundy area of New Brunswick, Canada. And these rocks have been shaped by the tides that have come in over the centuries and have created some unique formations. All right, so we have our background layer of video. Now we want to add some elements on top of this layer. That's the sweetness of working with After Effects. You can combine many different elements together. Let's maybe bring this photograph up to the top so it's the top layer, and you can rearrange your layers at any point. Just take your mouse and point to any layer and start dragging it up and drop it down at the top. And now the photograph is on top, completely covering the beach. So what can we do in order to see both of these images working together as one scene? Well, first of all, we could reduce the size of the photograph. Let's open up that photograph and go to the transform tool and find the scale, and with your mouse pointed at either one of these, the horizontal or the vertical, you can start scrolling. As long as you see this little link here is on, then as you scroll one, the aspect ratio will stay the same. If it's not clicked, if it's showing just blank there and you start moving just one, well, notice what happens to the image. It's just going to be manipulated in the horizontal, or if we worked with the other, then it would be the vertical that gets stretched. And so it's good to keep that checked. There might be times when you would want to have that unchecked, but for the most part, let's keep it checked. And just to get back to where we were, let's undo those actions. And at any point in time, you can use the undo keyboard shortcut, much like you would in a word processing program. A lot of the keyboard shortcuts in After Effects are just like your word processing program. So hit the Control Z a couple of times and we'll step back in time and undo. So our percentages are exactly the same and our link is on. Now all we have to do is scroll over on one and it'll automatically keep its aspect ratio. All right, so as we drag this down, we now see the beach scene underneath it. We can, let's maybe get rid of all of the nodes that are there from the last tutorial or one of the last tutorials. And at any time you want to select more than one node, you can lasso a group of nodes. Just take your mouse and point to any area in your timeline there and click down on your mouse and start dragging your mouse across your mouse pad, and you can just lasso a bunch of nodes there together, and you'll see that they turn blue, and all the ones that are turned blue will disappear when you hit the delete key. So now we don't have, as we scroll along there, it's not manipulating or animating that still shot in any way. Okay, so now with that photograph selected and with our selection tool chosen, we can just point to that and move it around anywhere in our shot. And wherever you drop it down is where it's going to be. All right, so what we have now is two layers of video showing. And the idea of After Effects is to have many layers showing at the same time in coming on in different ways, being animated in and off. And well, we're not going to take the time to work with a lot of layers and for this basic introduction to the masking tool, but once you understand the principles, you'll see how you can start building your own masterpieces using the layer capability of After Effects and start working with the masking tools. All right, so what we have here is a basic picture-in-picture. We wouldn't even need to come into After Effects to do this. Most video editing programs do this. So let's see what else we can do so that we can go beyond just a simple picture-in-picture. As we look at this, we might see, okay, the girl is very nice, very pretty, but there's a lot of distracting hanging baskets here. It would be much nicer if we could just kind of see more of only the girl in our picture-in-picture. How can we get rid of all of these distracting hanging baskets? Well, your first instinct might be to just take your mouse and go up to the edge there and start sliding this across, hoping that that would get rid of that. But no, instead, it basically just closes up that image like a sandwich, and that's not what we want. Let's hit our undo key, Control Z, or Z if you live in Canada, and here's where we want to start going after our mask tool. And where you find the mask tool is up here in our tool belt, much like you would in Photoshop. Let's just go over here. It is here. And we see there's in kind of an oval shape there, but if you click on it, you'll see that there's a number of different options that you can start with as you select a mask tool. Let's maybe start with this rectangular tool. Just let your mouse go. You'll see that it changed here from the oval to the square. And now as we draw our mask onto our shot, it will be in the form of a square. And so again, with our photograph still selected, let's start drawing on our mask. And the way you do that is take your mouse and point to that area of the shot that you want to start seeing in your new picture-in-picture once we've masked out the other areas. Clicking down your mouse, you'll see, you might be startled at first to see the picture has disappeared. What happened to my photograph? Well, if you keep your your left mouse button down and start sliding your mouse across your mouse pad, dragging it down and to the right, you'll see that you are now going to reveal that portion of the photograph that you draw with your mask tool. Okay, then when you're happy with what you want, just release your mouse, and now we have masked out the unwanted areas of our photograph, and we're left with only that portion of the photograph that we want. But it's still a kind of a little boring and probably something that we still could have done in our video editing program. So what else can we do with the mask tool? Let's maybe first of all go back and redo this using the oval mask tool. And so let's delete this mask tool. You may have noticed that once you started drawing this mask tool that it has shown up here as an effect inside of our photograph layer. And so if we want to get rid of it, all we have to do is point to that and just hit the delete key, and we've lost our square mask. Let's go back up here and choose the oval, and notice what a difference that makes. Just using the same method, point to an area where you want to start drawing that mask and drag your mouse across and create a nice oval. Okay, I think maybe didn't start at the right point there. Let's just undo that and try again. And as long as your mask tool is still selected, you don't have to go up and point to it again. You can just go back to your photograph. Let's maybe start a little bit further over this time. There, that is a little bit more even. And release your mouse. All right, so that's a little bit more pleasing than the boring square. But what else can we do with the mask? Well, something I like to do is open up our mask tool here. And notice that there's a feature here called Mask Feather. And if you follow along with your mouse, you'll see that right now it's not feathered at all on the edges. It's just harsh, sharp edges in our oval here. But we can soften up those edges a lot using this mask feathering. And just again, just like you did with the scale, point your mouse to the pixels here and start dragging your mouse across, and you'll see as you watch the image up there that the more pixels you feather, the softer it's going to get around the edges of this shot. Let's maybe bring this up a little bit. I don't know if I mentioned you can resize your viewing window. If you have a mouse that has a wheel on it, just try scrolling your wheel and you'll see that that can reduce or enlarge your viewing area. Let's see if we can't soften that up just a little bit more. And then by pointing to our image and going back to choosing our selection tool, we can now point to that image and move it anywhere we want on the shot. All right, let's maybe bring in a shot of the girl's brother and see what we can do with him. Maybe put her right on the rock there. All right, let's go after another shot here of the girl's brother and bring it into our composition. Again, we can just drag and drop this onto our shot. Another way is you can drag it also to the timeline and just drop it at whatever layer you want, and it'll show up there. Again, it's a large photograph, so we're going to have to scale it back. Let's maybe make him about the same size as the girl. And then let's mask him out with our oval tool as well. Go over and select that. And then let's go to our feathering tool again and soften up those edges. And the really nice thing about working with masks inside After Effects, of course, once you've got your elements looking good with the mask tool, now with the powerful animation tools of After Effects, you can animate these images on, take them off, make them smaller, make them grow. The sky's the limit really as to what you will be able to do with the different elements that you bring in. And maybe just before we close up this introduction to the masking tool, I'll just show you a couple of examples of animating that. Let's maybe hide the girl. Just hit the eye there and she's gone. And let's maybe just bring the boy on. And let's maybe slide him on. Let's say about second number 2 there, let's place our timeline cursor and let's go down to the image of the boy and let's animate him completely off the screen. Let's just slide him right off there using our position tool. You can just take him right off the screen. That's one of the reasons why you want to be able to scroll these larger and smaller, is because as you're working with elements and moving them off the screen, it's good to see just where they're positioned. So let's set a node there, and then let's slowly animate him on at about 8 seconds there. Let's just position him back up there against the rocks, and we want to slowly ease in on the end there, and let's render that out. And if we want to speed that up a little bit, we just simply have to bring our ending node back a little bit, and then that length of animation will come in at about twice the speed. All right, well, those two images kind of work well together. It almost looks like the boy has his arm around the big rock there. And that gives me an idea to show you how you're not stuck with the oval that you drew there. You can do some manipulation to that to hide more of the actual photograph around his hat there, and we'll see if we can't get more of his hand showing and maybe more of his body so it doesn't look like he's stuck in the sand there. So let's go over here and select the pen tool, and with that tool selected we can start making nodes right on the mask itself, and once they're there we can start hiding more of the original photograph or revealing more of the original photograph. Let's see if we can get more of his. Oh, I guess that is the end of the shot there. Okay, well, we'll leave him stuck in the mud there. Okay, so now we have a very interesting composite there. And you're not restricted, of course, to just using the mask tool with a still photograph. If I would have shot some video of him standing there in the same position, we could have used video, so it would have even added more interest to the shot, to the composite, if he would have been smiling a little bit and moving his head around a little bit. It would give the impression that he was actually there, a giant among all the rest of the people in the shot. All right, well, I believe that gives you a good introduction to the mask tool. Of course, as you continue to work with After Effects, you will learn many other ways that you can use the mask tool. But for now, I believe that that does it for the mask tool of After Effects.